now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Manifest Your Life with the Chakras, or Manifest with the Chakras show. My name is Supriya Prasad. Welcome, 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 everybody. This is episode 1, actually, for the Manifest Your Life with the Chakras, Manifest with Your Chakras show. So I have Tracy here. Tracy, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tracy, you are a Starseed angel healer. I think you are. Yes, Starseed healer doing energy work, artwork, and family constellation facilitation. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
About which one? The family constellation. So basically, if you have some sort of thing going on, say a repeated pattern, you might be experiencing something that didn't actually begin with you. It might belong to one of your ancestors. If we have an ancestor who had some sort of trauma that they weren't able to process, and then they pass, that trauma gets stuck in the system. And then especially the more sensitive individuals, we pick it up either subconsciously or we inherit it. And then as a result of carrying that baggage, we suffer. So a family constellation is a way to put down that baggage and still get the belongings and permission and blessings that we really need from our ancestors.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. Yeah. I mean, a lot of us, like, we there's this thing about generational trauma, right? We get passed down from our families. However, I feel like the whole thing with generational trauma, we can also gather our strength from our lineages too, which I think sometimes gets lost when we talk about generational trauma. I'm like, but we also have strength that we can get from generations as well. I mean, psychic ability, for example, can get passed down from generation to generation. So I think that's absolutely beautiful. And just like me, you are an energy healer too, which I just think is so beautiful. And that's why I wanted to do like the chakras right here. And I have that as my beautiful tapestry in the background here about the chakras. And I love talking about the chakras. The chakras is like it's so much to me. In fact, I actually have a book right here. This is the one my mom used actually when she was going through her awakening, and she's sadly passed. And it's called The Book of Chakra Healing by Liz Simpson. And that's a great book. But a lot of people, they really don't know like a whole lot about the Sanskrit meanings and sayings about the words and like all of that stuff. So what I want to do is I actually want to talk a little bit about each chakra a little bit. And, we can just go back and forth about like what we think about each chakra, how that works in the body, as well as the mind. And I want to start with root chakra as well. And in Sanskrit, that's Muladhara in Sanskrit. And it's the seed chakra chant is Lam. And what I perceive it to be safety, security, and stability. And that's how I perceive it to be, how safe you are in your environment, in your mind, in your spirit, in your soul, as well as how safe do you feel in your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and do you have anything that you would like to add to that?
Yeah. So if you have, let's say your root chakra is damaged or traumatized, if you will, that trauma is going to store in many different layers. It's going to store in your body, separate from everything else. It's going to store in the cells of your body. It's going to store in the actual chakra. So I also think that the root chakra, has to do with your tribe and finding your tribe. When you're able to find your tribe, it helps create safety, and vice versa. When you can feel safe, then it's easier to find your tribe. And your tribe isn't necessarily your family.
Yes.
It's your tribe is the people that you fit with, that you fit energetically with. So if we have, say we have a trauma that's stored in the cells of our body, even if we personally don't remember that trauma, it's going to affect our body, our lives, everything, right?
Yeah.
Even if we don't want to, if we want to deny it, if we want to just kind of say, no, that didn't happen, it's there.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I had an experience when I first started doing my shamanic work. Like, the shamanic work was something that was very natural for me. So I kind of got introduced to it, and I phoned a friend of mine and said, apparently I need to practice this. Do you mind if I practice on you? And she just said, I've been waiting for this call. So when I went to start to explore, I started with the chakras. I started looking at the chakra, and I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't look like what I've read, because all the colors were totally different. Well, the colors were different than what I'd read because of the damage, because of the trauma. So it literally affected the trauma that they carried in their body, affected the color of their chakra.
Interesting. And I call it chakras too, as in Chuck Norris. That's what I remember it as. And like, that is like the proper way of like saying it too, is the chakras in the chakras is the ancient word for, and they actually quote it here in the book of chakra healing. It's the ancient word for wheel. And when you, it's the ancient word for spinning the wheel too, because the spinning of the wheel. There is another book out there of the chakras, and cannot remember her name at the top of my head, but it's the book of chakras and the wheel of chakras. I keep forgetting her name, and I cannot remember.
I don't know it.
I think that's the more famous one. However, this book actually talks about the different planets. And it's so funny because the animal for the root chakra is actually the elephant. And it's so funny that you mentioned the cells in the body, right? About remembering. The elephant remembers everything.
Yeah, true. Very true.
The elephant remembers everything. And the elephant, and it says the archetype is the earth mother, or the victim. And that root chakra is all about earth, and the ruling planet is Earth and Saturn. So which I totally like. It always blows my mind whenever you think about the chakras in that specific way, because whenever we think about the root chakra, how grounded do you think is everybody in the earth right now? Or really, let's just do America. Let's do America, or like North America in general. How grounded in the earth do you think anybody in the US is right now, or Canada, or North America? I should say.
I would more generalize it, because I would say that there are some people that are very grounded, but in general, no. Most people are nowhere near grounded.
Oh yeah, and when we get to, and we're getting to the sacral right here, because when we talk about the sacral chakra, we're talking about emotional balance, right? Emotional balance and sensuality. I actually like to call the sacral, for women, for the divine feminine, that's really the creatrix center, the creative center, or the womb center, for the root as well, because when you deliver, you actually do deliver through the root. But it's really about like emotions and divine feminine and divine masculine and ego and all of that stuff. I find, and I don't know about you, but I find that it's for me, and for like, I feel like a lot of women, and some men too, but more so women, that's the chakra that's like the most unbalanced. And I mean, I see chakras in and of itself as well. I see chakras, I see auras, and for most women, I see that that's the one that's the most unbalanced. I mean, I don't know about you, but
yeah. So when you have trauma, there's a theory that all trauma happens in relationship, and all trauma is healed through relationship. The sacral chakra is the chakra of relationship. It's us relating on a one-on-one level to other individuals. So totally, the sacral chakra is going to be the chakra that's going to be most affected, because of all trauma happens through relationship, and it's got to go through relationship to heal.
Absolutely.
And how much we resist that. Like I don't know if you've ever noticed, but I've noticed that there's this whole theory that if I stay alone and not in relationship, I can feel a lot healthier than if I'm in relationship.
Yeah.
But when you're in relationship, that's when all your issues get triggered, and
because it feels so unbalanced to us, right? It feels unknown to us. It feels
but also when you're in relationship, that's when your buttons get pushed.
Triggers.
That's when the triggers are open to happen, right? So when we're in relationship, or if we live like a monk, yeah, we don't get so triggered. But life isn't to be lived in isolation.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I mean, I feel like, and we could talk about like for a million, I feel like for a million years about like how some people do get energy by being not in relationship. But I also feel like the sense of connection and belonging will always be there innately in us as humans.
Of course. Of course. But if we limit how much we relate to others, especially on the deeper levels, then we're not going to get as affected. I went through a period of time where when my daughter was young, it was like I found that I was too triggered in relationships. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna take a complete break from relationships, and I'm just gonna work on healing myself. So for well over 5 years, I didn't do relationships.
Wow.
And when I went back to relationships, yeah, I was somewhat better, but I still had my triggers. I still had a lot to work through in relationship.
It's funny because we seem to have like a lot to work on still, like even if, whether we're in relationships or whether we're not. And you know, that really all lies within the sacral right here, the sacral. And it's funny because I don't read a lot of men, but the few men, I mean, I read my brother, obviously. I've read my brother, I've read my dad, I've read like family. I've read family and a few friends and all that stuff who are men. And this is almost never, this is almost never, I mean, I do find it unbalanced. I do find it unbalanced, but at times, but most of the time it's stable. Why do you think that is for men? Why do you think that is? Or, I mean, you might have to have a different experience for the sacral chakra for men.
I think it boils down to the same. A majority of men, they move through a lot of, like, their sacral chakra is pretty active. Like, even if they're not in relationship, a man typically is a lot more sexual than women are.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, even if it's not in relationship, it's being sexually active can be healing.
That's true. Yeah, that's
even if it's you know, them just having fun. It can be a healing thing.
Yeah, I mean, no, men definitely have a different view of sensuality.
Men are viewed differently sexually.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
By society.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to, let's move on to the Manipura chakra, solar plexus. Confidence. That's confidence. And my, have I, like, that's the one that I feel like I've dealt with the most, with self-esteem and self-confidence over, and I think a lot of women have that issue with self-esteem, self-confidence, worthiness. That's what those are the words I use when it comes to the solar plexus. I don't know about you, but I've used those words, and like, and you know, feeling more confident within yourself and really finding your own personal power. I also feel.
Yes.
Yeah. What about you?
I totally find the base of it is about you're standing in your own power. Like, there's a big question that I like to ask people is, how is it you feel powerful? Like, there's more than one way to feel powerful. There's holding power over another individual is one way that people feel powerful. But if you're holding power over another individual, you're not standing in your own power. It's a false sense of power. Whereas if you feel powerful by standing in what you know and standing strong, that's standing in your own power. If you feel powerful going out to the forest and grounding in the earth, that's standing in your own power. If you feel powerful to say something happens where you get triggered, and then you kind of process through that trigger, and at the end of your processing, you're confident and know how you stand on that issue, that's standing in your own power. So I highly recommend finding a way to stand in your own power. And asking yourself, how do I feel powerful?
Oh, that's beautiful. How do I feel powerful? Yeah. And I was at like a mastermind earlier, and like, that was a question. That was a question that came up. How do you feel powerful? How do you stand in your power? Let's see what Plumeria says here is, I feel powerful when I can control my own temperament and my responses to other people without lashing out or letting them affect me emotionally when it's necessary. Absolutely. Yeah.
You want to be aware of when they affect you emotionally and pull back and kind of look at that and process that. But yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's really good. Finding your own power, and I think as women we can also like get that, because we often put our power into other things and into outside forces, I feel. And
we give our power away a lot.
Yes.
We give our power away to doctors, to therapists, to people, like, we have a tendency to compare people to ourselves. And if we compare them and think, oh, they're more enlightened than me, or they're more spiritual than me, or they're more whatever than me, then I should give my power back away to them. And that's never the case. Never give your power away.
I do believe that we do put our trust in more people than we should. I mean, it's not like we shouldn't ask for help, but I feel like sometimes I feel like we put our trust, instead of looking within and our own selves and our own bodies. I can't even tell you how many times I went to the doctor about like some of my issues, and I felt like I was giving my power away. And
Yeah, exactly.
more often than not, like it was wrong. Not saying that, and I'm full disclosure, I'm not saying that like doctors are always wrong. I'm not saying that.
No, they're not.
I'm not saying that. I have 2 medical professionals in my family. Like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, absolutely go to them for advice. They're tools. They are tools, just like social media is a tool, just like all these other tools, just like there's tools, there's people available for you. But I think far too often we depend on it. We depend on these tools to grow, to survive, to, whatever, instead of just looking within and looking within our own chakras. So looking in our own chakras in our own bodies and how we feel into our own bodies. So I think that's really important. And as we move into the heart chakra, which is Anahata, which is, of course, love, compassion, and empathy within ourselves. And, a lot of people, when talking about like things like relationships, like you said, especially romantic ones, we look at the heart to see like if it's blocked or whatever. To me, like heart is a lot, but it could also be familial relationships too. Where we could be also, when we talk about blocked chakras, and when we talk about things that are unhealed within ourselves. And first of all, I think you brought it up before we went live, like correctly. Not correctly. You brought it up in the right way. Everybody can heal their chakras, but like it's different for each person.
Yeah, no, there is no one healing fits all, if you will. I've actually had, I like to draw this analogy of, if you imagine there's, say Sally breaks their leg, and Sally goes to a Reiki master or a Reiki practitioner and gets some sessions done. And she has a great experience. So she tells all her friends, oh my God, I broke my leg, but I went to this Reiki practitioner and it was absolutely beautiful, wonderful. I highly recommend it. Well, Sally's friend Rebecca broke her ankle, let's say. And so Rebecca says, well, it worked for Sally. I'll go to a Reiki practitioner. And she goes to a Reiki practitioner and it doesn't work so well. And it's like, why didn't it work? Well, what is necessary for one person may not be the answer for another individual. I've discovered that there's many times that I'm applying multiple modalities to clear a particular block. So sometimes there's a little bit of shamanic involved, sometimes there's a little bit of Reiki, sometimes some Tibetan healing, sometimes family constellation. It really varies. And if you can have it open where you're doing multiple things, then you're going to get a better healing if it's fluid. Our bodies and the chakra system all the energy just wants to flow. And wherever we're stopping that flow is going to be where we're going to have problems. Where we constrict how much that flow can happen, that's when we're going to have challenges.
Yes. And I absolutely agree. Because where that flow constricts in and of itself, that's where we're going to have like the most challenges. Obviously, same experience is not going to be across the board, depending on how open each person is. Yes, I agree. Yeah, exactly. I just want to shout out some people here. Hi, Molly, what's up? Sorry, like I know that there's a few people on here. Hi, Nandrani. Thank you guys for joining. Yeah, like this. I mean, like yeah, when we're looking at our heart chakra, when we're looking at our bodies, and we're looking at how it affects us, yes, obviously, like this can manifest in different ways. For example, like I believe like sacral and root. I want to say even women's health issues. If we are, if we're blocked or in any way through those chakras for women, I feel like a lot of menstrual issues can manifest in those areas as well. So, and Molly, you have a great question here. What are the fundamental, you can take this question, Tracy. What are the fundamental differences between Reiki healing and shamanic healing?
So Reiki healing is an energy that flows through you. It has a mind of its own, and it just goes to where it's needed. Basically, in order to do Reiki, you need some channels opened in you to be able to do that. Shamanic healing, and I'm just going to talk about my own experience with shamanic healing. Shamanic healing is something that happened for me naturally. And so I basically close my eyes, I ask a question, and I get shown pictures. And then I ask more questions, and sometimes more pictures come. And then I just say, okay, I want this, this, and this to happen. And I either do that or it just gets carried out. Like I have assistants, if you will, that carry out my instructions. So that's my experience of shamanic. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Molly's asking, so our meridian chakras for Reiki, I believe it's for the Reiki healing, right? So our meridian chakras is what she's asking. I believe so, right? Like,
For Reiki?
Yeah.
Yeah, Reiki it's just kind of universal channeled energy. And it just goes to where it's needed. Sometimes it's working on the chakras, and sometimes it's working on the body. We don't really get to decide where it's going to go. It has basically a mind of its own.
Gotcha.
But it's very powerful.
So if I mentally manifest clearings and healings through clairvoyance and conscious intention, would you say I'm more of a shamanic healer? That's a really good question.
If you say that again, can you read that again?
So
if I'm manifesting
clearings and healings through clairvoyance and conscious intention, would you say I'm more of a shamanic healer?
It really depends on what you're doing. Like if you close your eyes, do you get shown a picture? Do you get shown anything in particular? With the shamanic healing, like my experience of it is I can see something, and it's like I can literally put my fingers right into that picture and manipulate or alter the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a bit of an experience a couple of years ago with that when I was actually dreaming and I was actually able to see and gosh, touch colors, basically. That's what I'm going to describe it as, touching colors, because I was able to touch and pull and actually feel the colors in my hands. So
that's shamanic.
Yeah. That's what I would describe it as. So, I mean, if anybody has ever experienced that, that would be shamanic. Well, I don't have to close my eyes, but I have an ability to pull into my third eye what their energy lines look like. And then I mentally manipulate. Yeah, if you're mentally manipulating, Molly, it looks like you have more of a shamanic ability. So, Molly, I know Molly and I are very similar in that aspect. But yeah, I know that I have experienced, I have experienced like manipulating and seeing like lines and like doing all that stuff. If you can manipulate energy like that, and I know Molly, you can, it looks like that's more shamanic. Yeah, so that's really that's a good difference, and that's a really good question too. Thank you, Molly. So we go through the throat. Throat is the communication. That's what I like to call the communication. Chakra. And how you can communicate. And that's more of like I like to call it speaking your truth. Speaking your truth through that chakra. What do you think? Or do you have a different way of saying
So yes, I find it some about speaking your truth, but also like if you imagine you have a family that's not used to communicating. Like for example, there's some people that their communication, they really don't believe that they need to communicate things that are somebody should just know that. So I'm just going to refer to that as you already know it. Well, maybe I don't. That's going to affect your throat because there's just sometimes they like attempting to put what's going on in their mind into words.
Right. And yeah, like I know I have been in a lot of familial situations where the throat was blocked, so to say. The throat was blocked, and you couldn't really speak up in a situation. You couldn't really speak up in any sort of instance. But it was, and when you find your voice, though, when you find your voice and when you speak up and all of that stuff, and this could be in anywhere, really in a work situation, for example, being the only one that speaks up. And my gosh, I have been in quite a bit of work situations where I was the only one speaking up about like work situations, unfairness, things like that in the work environment. If I were able to speak up, and but being in the only one that speaks up and being gaslighted at the same time. Being gaslit.
Yeah, exactly.
And saying that, no, you're crazy. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. You're the one that's only speaking up about this. Why are you going around talking about it? So like, and of course that, I mean, I don't know about you, but I randomly cough. And sometimes that could be me picking up on somebody else's energy. Most of the time it is. Coughing at random at times where sometimes I would be on a phone with somebody that is actively trying to suppress, like not suppress, but like actively trying to constrict the voice.
Yep. Yep.
But yes, biplumeria, yes. Yeah, actively trying to constrict that voice, and I'll cough. So what else do you, or sore throat, I think is another one that comes up in the body. So
I've actually had I've had an experience where years ago, I was having coffee with a friend of mine, and I had been given a message to give to her, and I wasn't giving it to her. I wasn't speaking it, and my throat started to close. I was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and empathically, there's so many of us that are affected empathically. And, you know, I guess the question is, do you know how to clear yourself if you're being affected empathically?
And
one of the biggest ways for an empath to clear the energy off of them is to immerse yourself in water.
Yep. That's like the ultimate detox. Every other day, I actually just take a salt bath. Yeah. I love to take a salt bath every other day. I try to get into the habit of calling back my energy every single night.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend that. I actually use the actual words of, I ask my energy back. I ask all fragments of my soul that everyone has held on to me today to put it back into my body. I ask spirit, I ask my guides, angels to put it back into my body. And I ask that if I held on to anybody else's fragments that I gathered through the day unconsciously, I will ask to put them back into their bodies, packaged with lots of love and light, and so it is.
Yeah, that's a good practice to have, for sure. Yeah. Because I think we subconsciously pick up so much from others.
This is a good question Molly has. If it's affecting them on such a degree, would that be considered more clairsentience rather than clear empathy?
Yeah, I'm not. If it's affecting them
on such a level, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really big on what sentient. Yeah, what clairsense each is. It's just an individual might be being affected more because they're picking it up on more than one level.
Okay. Yeah, and like I would consider that, like, I know a lot of people, like, I do feel like there's different levels of empaths, like, and to the point where I think Molly would be talking more about clairsentience than clair, and then an empath, because an empath can feel, but then there's more empaths that can feel on more levels, which can get to the clairsentient level, which I believe that's more of the higher clairsentient levels. And I would consider myself a clairsentient person. And I feel, and like, yeah, Molly says, if I feel like once you embody it, it goes into the realm of clairsentience, which I do agree with. It does go into that realm. And you really, and at that point, you really have to be aware and be grounded. And that is when you have to really start working on your root, your lower chakras at the most, because you won't be grounded. You're most likely not grounded in your body if you are feeling it and not transmuting it, that is. And you really have to start being more grounded and start being more aware of that. So
yeah.
So, and then we get into the third eye, which is Ahana chakra. That's psychic ability. That's intuition and psychic ability. And that's the ability to see and opening up the third eye a little bit more. What do you think, like, if that's blocked, how does that come into physical, do you think?
I think, I think we kind of walk through the world blind, like where we don't really want to pay attention to what's going on, right? Just want to kind of live in our box and work in our box and just kind of not look at what's really happening around you.
Chronic headaches, I think, are a big one. And I think that goes right into the crown too. We can even talk about the crown, because I feel like those are really connected to each other too.
But if for the crown, if it basically, if you if you're opened too much and not safely or not grounded, that's when you run the risk of mental health. Like if you go too far out into the cosmos and you can't come back.
And you can't ground yourself, Yeah.
That's when you're running the risk of mental health issues.
Yeah, and I agree. I absolutely agree, because that's that headspace and it affects you internally. My third eye was open before my crown was, long before. And so was mine. And I do believe my crown, this whole area, I feel like was open for a very long time.
I think it's safer that way. Like having your third eye open for a long period of time and getting used to that and being able to look around and see before your crown opens it's a safer way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, because I feel like, I don't know, what do you think whenever you go outside your body? Because I remember going outside my body when I was 4 years old. So what do you think that chakra is? I always felt like that was either more the crown or the third eye. I'm not sure which one.
I think that's the crown. I think that's the crown.
So it was open, like at that age.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But so if you were out traveling, like I've had experiences out traveling and in my sleep, right? And you come back and you jar awake. It's because you jumped back in too fast. And like I've seen mental health issues develop that way too, where you're out traveling and something else is waiting to come into your body when you leave.
Oh yeah, I've had that issue too. I've had like entities try to come into my body one time when I was astral projecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like like there was like an issue I had like I think 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago. I had that issue where there was I astral projected outside my body, and I think I just moved into my apartment in Atlanta, and I think there was some entity trying to come into my body. I'll just say it like that. There was like an entity trying to come into my body, and I was like, I had to call upon Archangel Michael, Archangel, like all of this stuff to like get it out of there. And it was one of those situations where each time like I slept, like it would come back. Like it was one of those things, like I was sweating like the entire night. Like I couldn't go back to sleep. Yeah, I mean, it was a point where I did have to get sage in, and it happened like I think 2 nights in a row. I had to get like sage in. I had to like do like all that stuff, and it didn't happen again. It didn't happen. So, yeah, you're right. There are like things that will come in, and it will cause like mental issues. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of stuff that can happen, and that can manifest in those chakras in and of itself.
Yeah.
So
it also happens a lot with if there's an addiction. When you're addicted to something, usually severely, then you open yourself up to spirits and stuff like that attaching to you.
Yeah, they say that. I mean, they call it like, I mean, when you're talking about like alcohol, right? They call them spirits as well. So, I mean, I heard somebody else talk about it too, like spirits and it's like taking the spirit away. To me, it's blocking. It blocks like anything, like, because for me, that's what happens. It blocks. And I didn't get drunk. I think I got a little bit tipsy for the first time in like 2 years at a Christmas party. And that was the first time that I just didn't hear anything. Like I didn't hear my guides. I didn't hear like anything for the first time in like 2 years. And I was just like, wow. I couldn't, I was just like, wow. I was like, this is how normal people like go about their life. Cause like that was it was just one of those experiences where I was just like, oh my gosh. And I was like talking a lot more. I was like, I mean, I was really a different person. But that's what alcohol is like. And a lot of people, I always say that alcohol is a drug. It really is a drug, and it's the biggest drug that is legal now. So and addiction, I mean, addictions could also be other things too. Addiction to I had a massive addiction to exercise for a long time, and a lot of people won't think that that's a thing, but when you get injured, yes,
you can be addicted to anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, let's take another question. Every now and again, I'll have lucid dreams. So where at one point I lose control of my body, and it's like something has a control of it in the dream. And I immediately call upon the archangels. Yeah. And sometimes I'll have hard time talking in the dream. I wonder if it's that. That's almost exactly what I experienced. Almost exactly what I experienced in that. I did have an experience one time, like I think I went into my body too fast. And I had a ringing in my ear for like a good 45 minutes after I woke up. And sometimes, and my mom, who has passed on, sometimes I see her, and sometimes she will pull me back into my body. And I think it was that one time where I think I got pulled back in.
It's very jarring.
I got pulled back in, and like, I heard like it was just, and I feel like it was a too fast sort of a situation because I heard ringing. So yeah. usually, yeah, I don't ever recall waking up during those instances. Yeah, I usually fight it off when it goes away while it's still a dream. Yeah, or better yet,
You
I
can
rat it
do
out. Yeah.
you can do some things around lucid dreaming, like you can there's a way that you can set up, like you can have allies in your dreams. So any of your guides would be allies. If you see things in your dreams repeatedly, they could be allies. And then if you have a place that you kind of feel super safe, you can call on that safe place in your dreams.
Yeah.
And then everybody has like superpowers in their dreams.
Yeah.
So in your dreams, you might be able to fly and just get out of a situation. Or you may be able to, like for me, my dreams are super, super clear. I get a lot of instructional dreams. Like if I don't know something, if somebody's asking me something and I'll go, I don't know, I'm going to have to dream on that.
Okay.
And I will dream, okay, what's happening there? But also, so you can call on your superpowers as well in your lucid dreamings. If you have a dream that you don't feel good about, then you can go back into that dream consciously and manipulate it. You can say, okay, in the dream, I want this to happen instead. And you can go back in on a conscious level, like when you're awake, and make that so it happens.
Yeah, I've had that too. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I want to wrap up here. Where can we find you? How can we work with you?
I am on Facebook. I am on, I have a YouTube. I have a website. My website is www.awakeningthehealerwithin.ca. I charge $1.08 per minute. Super cheap. There's times that a session can take 40 minutes. So if it takes 40 minutes, I charge 40 minutes. I don't have hidden parts or anything to that effect. Okay. So yeah.
Awesome. So Molly's last question, do you ever experience visiting other people's dreams? I only ever visited somebody else's dreams. I think it was just my brother's. Maybe a couple times during my childhood, but that was about it. I've never done it since.
I haven't done it. I feel like I would be able to if I wanted to, but I'm very particular. Like I don't look at somebody unless they specifically ask me to look at them, because I actually find it intrusive. I don't want somebody looking at me without my permission. So I try to give the same respect to others.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't consciously do it. Like it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't really consciously do it. Yeah. Like I just, my brother and I like have a very deep like connection. I'm very close to him, so like we do have a deep connection. It was one of those things where we both, it's interesting, we're both 5.5 years apart. He's older than me. So it like we almost have a twin connection though. It's because our intuition, like I do remember there was one time where we tried to guess the number that we had in our head, and it took us a few minutes, but we eventually were able to guess the exact number, and it was to the point where it got scary. That we were reading each other's minds. So yes, yeah, like it's crazy like how that could be connection. So thank you so much, Tracy. We're at the hour mark. I didn't think we were going to go that long. But thank you so much. Thank you, Molly, and thank you for everybody who's tuning in. If you're part of the replay crew, please put #replay in here. And yeah, thank you for tuning in on Manifest with the Chakras Show. I will definitely see you guys very, very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. Bye.
Bye.